Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is a review of the 2007 direct-to-video sequel, Returned to House on Haunted Hill. Now, this is a sequel to the 1999 film House on Haunted Hill, which in itself was a remake of the 1959 film of the same name. Now, Warner Brothers and Dark Castle, they had planned for this sequel to be the first of many. In fact, they had plans for a third film in the franchise until this failed to meet demands from either the studio or the fan base. Why they thought that this was their golden ticket, I have no idea. But I guess they saw some decent returns for something like Lost Boys, The Tribe, so they thought they could do something like that with Return to House on Haunted Hill. And Warner Brothers and Dark Castle, not only did they think that this was going to be a franchise, but they also put a lot of marketing and a lot of money into promoting this film and to try to make it a big deal on home video. Not only do you have advertisements, but it was released on HD DVD, which was a format made by Toshiba to be a competitor for Blu-ray. It didn't work out. Blu-ray won. But if you want to learn more about HD DVD, go ahead and just do some research or look it up or whatever. Or not, because there's probably a lot of people watching this who already know what HD DVD is. But anyway, it was a failed format that didn't quite take off. There were two different releases of the film on home video. There was an unrated release and an R-rated release. And apparently on the HD DVD and on the unrated disc, I think, on the unrated DVD, there was this new technology called navigational cinema technology, where you could select different demises or different results and endings for particular characters. The production team for the film shot 60 minutes of footage with the actors, and apparently it's essentially choose your own adventure for this movie. And that seems to be its enduring legacy. Its lasting legacy is for this gimmick of navigational cinema technology, which is fitting since the first film was directed by William Castle, who was the king of gimmicks. And Dark Castle, the company itself, was founded by the daughter of William Castle. But has anyone actually tried that out? I'm not gonna spend any more time with this movie than I already have. So even if I do have the disc that has that functionality, I'm not gonna bother with that. I don't want to bother with choose your own adventure with this movie. If it was a movie that I liked, a movie that wasn't below average, then maybe I would, but no. So, but I am curious to see if any of you have tested this out and what your experience was with it, if you did. But anyway, this film was directed by a relative unknown at the time, a complete and total novice, in Victor Garcia. Now, Victor Garcia wasn't a complete unknown or a complete noob, so to speak, when it comes to the film industry. He did work with Del Toro on effects for films like Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy. He worked with Brian Yuzna on Faust, Love of the Damned. So he had experience as an effects guy. And you can see that in this movie because the effects, when they're done practically at least, and some of the shots that are done with CGI actually don't look that bad. This film plays out like an effects reel at times. And it's not that bad of an effects reel. But the problem is there's more to directing than just showing effects. And this is a prime example of that. And that's not saying that effects artists can't direct. Because there's a lot of effects artists who have done films that honestly did a really good job. Stan Winston for Pumpkinhead, Chris Walas for The Fly 2, Kevin Yeager even did a really good job with Hellraiser Bloodline. He was not the problem. So there are instances where they can come in, they can direct something, and they can do a good job. Robert Kurtzman is another one, Greg Nicotero. But here's the thing. This is what I've noticed with those effects guys. They had years of experience on the job shooting their own effects. It doesn't seem like Garcia had nearly as much experience as Stan Winston or Chris Walas or Kevin Yeager. So he didn't really pick up on the same tricks, and he didn't really have the same tools in his toolbox. Apparently, he was courted to do other films that never happened. Like, he was going to do a film called Smoke, but the picture went into development hell. He was going to do a film called Slaughter with actress Dominique Swain, but that didn't happen. Then he was hired to do this. And I feel it was a mistake to hire a wet behind the ears director to do the film that is supposed to kickstart your new direct-to-video franchise for House on Haunted Hill. If you had big plans for this, if you were planning on doing a third film, why did you hire a guy who had no experience directing anything other than one short movie? I'm just saying, it wasn't really the smartest idea by Warner Brothers or Dark Castle. And his direction is a big reason why the film is so below average. He's a below average director. Look what he did after this. He did Mirrors 2, Hellraiser Revelations, and a film called The Damned, which apparently, according to anyone that's seen it, is a movie that they really would wish that it would be damned to hell. And it's just one of those things where the guy just doesn't really have the chops. And it seems like the films that he's most well known for, or infamous for, are crappy direct-to-video sequels that aren't well received. And at best are below average. And at worst are embarrassing pieces of shit. So anyway, and he hasn't directed anything since 2013. He did The Damned, and then Hollywood was like, damn you, damn, you suck. No more. Even direct-to-video, companies were like, this guy sucks so much. No thank you. No more Victor Garcia. Apparently he was working on another project based on some comic book, but that never happened. It seems like either he does shitty direct-to-video sequels, or he works on movies that never get made, or he does something called The Damned that people want to damn to hell. It's this just seems to be how it is with this guy. But what I mean by his direction in this, he's so inexperienced, he doesn't know how to get the most out of his actors or his actresses. He can shoot effects sequences, but not much else. He doesn't know how to shoot sequences that have unique mood or atmosphere. The attempts to recreate the amazing aesthetic from the 1999 film fail miserably and come across as just pale imitations. And he's one of those new directors that tries to throw all these flashy camera angles and different techniques to try to prove to people that he's a director. He's got his big boy pants on. Look at me. I'm a director. Look, I got Dutch angles from every angle. I got shaky cam. I got quick cuts. I got all this stuff, man. I got pans and whatever. But he doesn't know when to use them properly. So he just overuses them because he doesn't know how to use them. He doesn't know how to savor these moments, how to use these camera techniques in ways where they enhance sequences and they aren't just window dressing or they aren't distracting. So, yeah, these are things that you pick up with experience. You don't pick those things up without experience. And I don't know how much second unit work or third unit work or whatever work he did shooting effects that he did with Del Toro or any of these other people, but whatever it was seemed like it wasn't a whole lot, because it definitely didn't show up in his direction with this particular film. But the direction in Return to House on Haunted Hill is not the only below average thing about this movie. Another below average thing about this film is the screenplay by William Massa. And this script is a gigantic mixed bag. It's not a total pile of garbage. There are elements to this script that I actually like, and there are concepts here that aren't really that bad and are honestly kind of interesting. The problem with this screenplay is the characters are either bland or unlikable. There are questionable decisions with the storytelling that is either infuriating or dumb. The overall plot involving our cast and crew, our group of characters having to go back to the house because they're trying to find some idol Baphomet, which apparently is responsible for the darkness or the evil in the house. And the house is the one that essentially contacted them to get them to come here. But it doesn't really seem like that's the case. They come there willingly, but okay. But that's the main gist of the overall plot, the reason for why there are people back at the house on Haunted Hill. And, you know, I know some people have an issue with that concept, and I get it, but I actually appreciate the fact that the writer put some thought into it. And, it's an idol, you know, it's Dr. Vandercook was interested in art, and he was really curious about occult objects, and he got his hands on this idol Baphomet, and it's what caused him to go crazy, and all of his fellow doctors and employees, and that the idol is the reason for the darkness. And I was like, okay, all right. It's at least there's thought put into it. It's not like, oh, it's a group of teenagers who get drunk and decide to have some truth or dare or whatever party at the house on Haunted Hill, and that's why there's people in the house on Haunted Hill, is because a group of stupid teenagers decided they were gonna play a game of truth or dare, and one of the dares was to go into the house. Because they easily could have done that, and they didn't. So I appreciate the fact that they put some thought into it. Does it kind of mess with the continuity of the first film? Yes. But at the same time, the first film didn't really explain a whole lot other than this darkness or this spirit was trying to go after the people who were responsible for the crimes all those years ago. There's no reference or mention of the ink blot, and I get it. This is a really low budget film. They could not afford to do the ink blot effect, and if they tried to do it with whatever budget they had in CGI, it would look awful. So they decided, we're not going to do that. We're just going to do our own thing with the idol or whatever. So they had to find a reason for people to be in the house, and there are worse reasons out there. So it's not the most lazy, uninspired reason to get people to come back to the house on Haunted Hill. So the concept to me is one of those elements that I honestly didn't mind. That being said, there are a lot of other aspects of the script that I take offense to. One of them is definitely the treatment of the character Sarah. So in this film, they introduce Sarah Wolf's sister, Ariel. And sadly, this screenplay does the same thing that so many of these direct-to-video sequels, for some reason, cannot resist doing, and kills off one of the main lead characters for no reason whatsoever other than shock value. And don't tell me it's to move the plot along. You could have had Sarah go missing and you don't know what her fate is. You could have not even mentioned her at all. You could have had something else involved with things for a reason why her sister finds a diary or so on and so forth. And also the whole treatment of the character doesn't make any sense. her holding herself up in some crappy apartment after winning millions of dollars and becoming obsessed with figuring out what happened at the house on Haunted Hill makes no sense whatsoever with this character. It makes me wonder whether or not the person who wrote this screenplay even watched the 1999 film, because it just doesn't seem like it fits her character at all. And on top of that, if that isn't bad enough, that, you know, they denigrate the character by turning her into a recluse, then they have her killed off screen because, yes, it's a trope in these movies that really needs to stop. Like, why do you need to slap the original fans, you know, the fans of the original film that you're a sequel to, directly in the face or in the junk with unnecessary deaths? And if the death and the denigration of the character is not shitty enough, this script decides to throw more salt in the wound by turning Sarah into a cheap ghost jump scare. So, yeah, I hate how this screenplay handled Sarah. That's one thing about the script I absolutely despise. So that's the most infuriating thing about this script is the handling of the character of Sarah Wolf. No mention of her boyfriend or her friend. No mention of that guy at all. Like, you might as well just have fucking died, apparently, because I mean, there's no mention whatsoever of Eddie. It's like Eddie just fell off the face of the earth. Anyway, this script also has some really dumb things in it. For one, has some really dumb dialogue. I guess it's trying to be funny, but it really doesn't work 99% of the time. It just comes across as cringe-inducing. For instance, there's this character, I'm trying to remember what the guy's name is. I don't remember what the guy's name is. He's a henchman for our villain Desmond. So this guy, I think it's Chucky Venice. I think that's who it is, but I could be wrong. But anyway, this guy, he's a henchman for the baddie Desmond, and he's walking through this water that's somewhere in a lower level of the house, and these are the glorious, Oscar-worthy lines of dialogue that this guy says. Shitty water. I hate shitty water. And I'm like, yeah, shitty water is right. It's a direct representation of the quality of this movie. It's shitty water. And by shitty water, I mean diarrhea. I mean, what the fuck? Who's there? Shitty water. I hate shitty water. You're just like, yeah, and I hate shitty movies. And I'm waiting around in one right now, aren't I? So yeah, this film has plenty of moments like that with just really dumb lines of dialogue and really dumb attempts at humor. And the stupidity continues with really dumb shit. Like, okay, because this movie barely has enough going on in it to last an hour and 10 minutes, or an hour, the screenplay decides to pad things with random flashbacks of the inmates, and how it does it is really fucking stupid. So what happens is, anytime a ghost shows up to attack someone, it stops for a second, grabs somebody, and does some mental transference, like, I guess they're now fucking X-Men, and transfer memories into people of what happened to them and what Dr. Vannicut did to them. And I'm like, the fuck is this? I didn't know that when you die, you become mutants and you get the powers of Professor X or Jean Grey and you're fucking psychic now. I didn't know I didn't know that was possible. I thought when you died, you're just dead. Like, you're not gonna have any powers, okay? Well, I guess Baphomet is the one. The idol of Baphomet is the one that is responsible for that bullshit, right? But it just ruins scenes because the ghost stops to grab somebody, and then you see the flashback. It just ruins the tension every single time. There's a sequence in the film where there are water ghosts that are going after some of the characters in a vat of water, and it could be a really tense scene. And then this ghost, which has no face, which is, just has teeth, no eyes, no nose, just teeth, similar to the ghost that was in the 1999 film that reused an effect by Dick Smith that was unused for the, I believe it was for the film Altered States, but I could be completely wrong. But anyway, no, it was Ghost Story. It wasn't Altered States. I was wrong, and I corrected myself. But anyway, it was one of those ghosts, and it just grabs the lead girl, Ariel, on the head, transfers fucking memories to her, and then it's just still like holding her head for a little bit, and doesn't do anything. Ariel gets away, and the ghost just grabs this other guy. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's just an excuse to pad the running time. And an excuse to give Jeffery Combs a paycheck. That's all this is. It's dumb. It's different, but it's still incredibly dumb. But despite the dumb things about this script, despite the frustrating things about this script, this screenplay has some interesting and fun ideas. For one, the deaths are honestly quite good and quite original for a low budget film. There's some decent bits of gore. I mean, the guy who hates being in shitty water, well, he gets his guts ripped out by a ghost and gets bent over backwards into a wall. Pretty decent effect. Pretty decent death. There's a sequence where two ghosts start essentially molesting this woman and making out with each other because they're lesbian ghosts. So they strip naked and they're macking on this girl, and then it's revealed that they are like rotting corpses, and the effect is actually done practically, and it's a good looking practical effect. And the designs are interesting and unique looking. There's even like one of the girls has like a creepy smiley face kind of thing going on. And Jeffrey Combs then shows up later because the lesbian ghost didn't get the job done. And he shows up later and slices off the mercenary girl's face like a slice of bologna. And then there's other sequences like this rough and tumble UFC fighter mercenary. He gets pulled apart limb by limb by these ghosts who wrap him with sheets and pull his arms and legs off and rip him to pieces. Pretty decent effect. Pretty unique way to kill someone. There's another moment where this other gal who is a part of the mercenary squad, she goes into a room and all of the furniture in the room ends up floating to the ceiling, and Dr. Vannicut uses his ghost powers to cause the furniture to fall on top of her and sends a refrigerator on top of her head. It's kind of not the best looking CGI, but it's still a unique kill and an interesting setup. There's even things like water ghosts and even fire ghosts, which, I mean, sounds like it's turning into Pokemon at this point, but it's something different, and I appreciated that about the film. So there are some interesting ideas here, but there's a lot of stuff that's just stupid, and a lot of things about the script that just make it really not lead up to anything other than being below average. I mean, here's some more dumb shit. So, and another reason why I don't think this writer saw the 1999 film. I really do not think that William Massa saw the 1999 film when he sat down to write this screenplay. Because it seems pretty obvious that he didn't. Because there's a scene in the film where the mercenary squad, they decide, okay, we're going to go find the master control room. Because the doors are starting to lock and the lockdown procedure is starting and so on and so forth. And the first film already established there is no master control room. The characters found no master control room in the first film. They spent a decent amount of time trying to find it, and they had no luck. So I'm thinking, you're not going to find the master control room. You're better off masturbating because you're not going to find it. And then, as soon as I thought that, they're in the master control room, and the mercenary guy decides, let's just shoot the gears, and apparently that stops things from closing. It stops the doors from closing, stops the lockdown procedure because he shoots the gears. I don't know about you, but wouldn't shooting the gears fuck you up even harder? Because, isn't it a potential that if you break the gears, wouldn't things just automatically lock down? Or just the mechanism that keeps the door up anymore isn't going to work? So it's just going to fall? It's going to fall down, you're going to be locked, and there's going to be no way out? Because you're a fucking dumbass and you shot the gears? I mean, I could be wrong, I'm not really an engineer. But either way, there's no master control room, so why the fuck would they even why were they even able to do that anyway? And it's pointless in the first place because it leads to nothing. Because the ghost still makes the gears move even after they shot them and locks them in. So what was the point of that? It was just padding. Another way to pad the running time. Because the screenwriter's a hack. Although he has some interesting concepts and some kind of fun ideas. But I don't know if that was him. It might have been Garcia who came up with that stuff, since he's an effects guy. But yeah, there's just a lot of stuff like that. And speaking of padding, there's a dumb scene where, okay, the gears are locked because I guess you can lock gears by shooting them. So the gears don't work anymore temporarily. So the doors are open, but the ghost starts to, I guess, make the doors close, and Ariel escapes before the doors close. And she's going after her boyfriend because she thinks he's going to be there in the car outside, but he's not there because he's back in the house. So the house, I guess, wants her back in, so it opens the door, and this scene is only here to try to be some kind of pathetic scene of badassery where Ariel is going to put on a mean mug on her face and grab a gun and tell the house, fuck you too, and then does a slow-mo walk into the house. I'm like, what the fuck was that? Like, why was that necessary? Needed to pad the running time. That's why the screenwriter couldn't come up with anything else. So it's like, okay, she escapes out of the house, realizes her boyfriend is no longer outside. The house decides, well, I want you back in here. So then she goes back in. Why the fuck did the house let her out in the first place? If the house didn't want her to leave, why the fuck did the house let her leave? The script is full of so many dumb things. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the script. Sorry, I mean, I just that was one of the things about the film that really stood out to me is the screenplay and the story and certain lines of dialogue and certain just dumb scenes that don't make any sense. But anyway, now we get to like the cast. So the film stars Amanda Righetti, who plays Ariel, Cerina Vincent, who plays Michelle, Erik Palladino, who plays Desmond, Tom Riley, who plays Paul, Andrew Lee Potts, who plays Kyle, Jeffery Combs, who reprises his role as Vannacut, Stephen Pacey as Dr. Richard Hammer, Katlia Rainford as Haru, Gil Colleran as Norris Boz, Andrew Plevlin as Samuel, Chucky Venice as Warren Jackson. Now, the two leads are Ariel and Paul. Now, there are some other characters that have a lot of screen time. Dr. Richard Hammer, played by Stephen Pacey. Kyle, played by Andrew Lee Potts, who's essentially just the film's comic relief. And Michelle, played by Cerina Vincent. Now, apparently Amanda Righetti was cast by the producers because she looked like Jennifer Garner. And I'm like, why do studios and why do producers do this shit? Why do you hire someone based on who they look like and not what their talent is? Because at best, she's mediocre. At best, she's average. She's a C actress at best. At worst, it's a D or D minus. Out of all the actresses in this, I guess she's the best one. But at the same time, even if you had a better actress, the performance would still be pretty lame because the character is given not a lot to do, and there isn't really a lot of meat on the bone for the character to chew on, or for the actress to chew on. You have dumb lines like "fuck you too" to the house, which doesn't make any sense, and isn't really that badass, and so she's not really given a whole lot to do here, so I guess I'm not going to completely rag on her, but at the same time, she's not really that good of an actress. But she's miles better than Cerina Vincent, who has all the acting abilities of a Pornhub actress, but that's not saying much that you're a better actress than porn actresses. I mean, it's kind of bottom of the barrel. You're just barely above that barrel, if that's the case. And then you have Erik Palladino, who plays the villain, Desmond. And this fucking guy, I swear, he looks like an actor who would be cast in the Saved by the Bell reboot. You got J.C. Slater Jr. over here trying to act like a badass and be intimidating, and it never works for a second. Because he looks like he's J.C. Slater Jr. from the Saved by the Bell reboot. Like, the fuck out of here, Slater. Go back to high school. Stop playing mercenary. And then you have Stephen Pacey, who plays Dr. Richard Hammer. I didn't mind him. He was like the best actor out of the group for me personally. Yeah, I thought I thought he did a decent job. Tom Riley as Paul. It's just generic and forgettable. Like, I don't even know if he's a good or a bad actor, because his performance was so lukewarm and so milquetoast and white bread and saltine cracker that I don't even, there's really not much to say. I don't know if it was bad or it was good. It was just there. And that's really how it was for a good number of the other performances in this film, because the characters, for the most part, sucked. So, once again, you have a film where you have below average directing, you have a below average screenplay, and you have below average characters with below average acting, which equals a below average movie. And that's exactly what this film is. Return to House on Haunted Hill is your typical below average movie and below average direct-to-video sequel that is a step down or multiple steps down from the original. And I gotta be honest, I didn't hate this movie. It went by at a decent enough pace. Other elements that are worth mentioning, I mean, the score really isn't worth mentioning. By Frederick Wideman, it's just forgettable. The editing by Robert Molina was really obnoxious at times, like too much quick cuts to the point where it's like, okay, cut it out. Cut it out with the quick cuts. Because they weren't really adding much to the film. They were just adding to my already pounding headache that I was getting after watching Garcia's obsession with shaky cam and Dutch angles and zooms and, super tight close ups. It was just a disorienting film to watch, and the editing did not help at all. And they did try to do the jerky effect, that was used in the 1999 film, but it didn't work. And all the attempts to try to scare me or scare the audience were total fails. They were telegraphed by the music, or they just weren't scary at all. And the gore at times is good. There's some good gore in this. But you know what? I need more than just good gore. I need more than just some tits and ass in a horror film. I need a story that's engaging throughout. I need characters that I like or I care about or are somewhat charismatic or have chemistry or there's something about them that makes me care what happens to them, whether they live or die, and actually creates suspense. And that doesn't happen with any characters in this movie. Unlike Eddie and Sarah in the first film, Ariel and Paul have no chemistry and might as well just be two fucking dead fish just slapping one another. There's no fucking chemistry there. There's no life. And it's just one of those movies where it's honestly pretty soulless, which is kind of ironic since it's a movie about a haunted house. It's a soulless sequel while it still isn't completely pointless and it does have some moments that I didn't mind. It's still ultimately a wasted potential and a pretty sad affair.